Hello from the
other day, all I could say is, "We don't talk about Bruno."
Oh my gosh, we did the Go Noodle, the little thing. Oh my gosh! And
but that's the only part I know. So that's all I sang all day long in my brain.
I cannot.
Did y'all see our TikTok?
Yeah, that was
from the 100th day. Well, welcome to Coffee with the Counselor. We are so glad you have joined us today. And today we are talking about tips and ideas to help you build and maintain a strong relationship with your child. Before we get started, though, we always like to talk about our coffee cups. Today, I'm sporting a cup from ASVAB. It is purple, and ASVAB is a career exploration program that is done with high school students. And shout out to Shonda Carter and her co-worker who was at our counseling workshop conference. Thank you. I have not had enough coffee this morning, but at our counseling conference in Hilton Head that we just went to not recently ago. And thank you for the coffee cup.
Yes. And speaking of the conference, it's National School Counselors Week.
Woo-hoo!
Woo-woo! So shout out to all the school counselors and all the people that support school counselors.
Yes.
My coffee cup today was a gift from our district office, and it says the influence of a good counselor can never be erased. And it has our name on it, and we are so appreciative of the administrative teams and teachers at our schools and our district office for supporting us.
And piggybacking off of that, my cute heart mug. Look how cute at the handle. It has a little heart in it. It is so cute. So shout out to my first and second grade teachers and their kiddos. They made me a basket filled with love and had coffee and coffee cups, and this was a mug that was in there. So thank you guys, and to all the other teachers at the school this week for making me feel so special and loved. I appreciate it.
Yes. All right, so we're going to get started and talk about building relationships with your child. And this is kind of one of those topics that we just kind of take for granted that parents do well at. And we all three have children. And I think it's real important that we talk about first communication. And although building a strong relationship with your child might seem like a given, most of us can attest to the fact that it is not.
Well, I
it's
think
not the easiest thing in the world.
No,
Parenting is hard.
Yeah.
In general, like
It's
not
just hard.
even. Yeah.
In general, it's hard. And then you talk about building a relationship with your kid, regardless of whether it's a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 17-year-old. It's hard.
I think we take for granted. So I'm in a different situation than you guys because my kids are 10 years apart, right? So me personally, I think I took for granted, like you were saying, the relationship that you have with your kids, like it's just automatic, you know? And when they're younger, you feel that way, you know, like it's just, oh, mommy this and mommy that, you can do no wrong, you know, they worship you, you know, all that good stuff. But then you don't realize that this is like the formative years to be building those cornerstone and those milestone relationships with them, because when they get older, you know, you have like a stronger foundation to build on. And I definitely, because my kiddos are so far apart, I definitely, as a mom, have learned. Sorry, Asher, from experience. It was almost like I was young. We were young when we had him. I thought I knew what I was doing in all aspects of life. You know, nobody could tell me any different. And I definitely learned, you know, some things to do differently with the younger one. But yeah, we'll leave that one there.
Well, I think that is a good perspective, and we don't all have the benefit of seeing what happens when they're older while we still have a younger one, you know, so that's a neat perspective to share.
Yeah. And I love the dynamic. Don't get me wrong. I love the 10 years apart because Asher is such a great role model for his younger brother. And I love my brothers are a lot older than me, and I have a fantastic relationship with them. You know, maybe not so much when we were younger because I feel like I was their punching bag, guinea pig, wrestling partner, you know, all that good stuff. And I did not like having two other daddies telling me what to do. But definitely now, like, I do not know what I would do without my brother. So I'm glad that, you know, Asher and Holden will get to have that relationship. And But I just feel like, building that, being more intentional in that, building relationships from an early, age. I don't think I did a good job of that the first time around.
Well, we have the opportunity sometimes to look back. And yes. So let's talk about communicating with your child and some tips and things that we can talk about. I think most importantly is the biggest thing is listening. And that's hard for a lot of people to do. Like, it's something that takes practice to be a good listener, to not interrupt the story. And also, while you're listening, to try to make sure that you make that child feel like what they're telling you is of importance. To us, it may not be a big deal, but to them and their little minds, it is a big deal.
Right.
And so I think really listening to what the child is telling you, whether it's big or small, is probably the most important thing to take from this.
And listen with purpose
Yes.
too. I know a lot of times we're really good at multitasking as a parent.
Right. Kids don't like that.
No, they don't.
And we don't like it as adults either.
You're
When
right,
we're
we
trying
don't.
to have a conversation with our kiddos and they're, on their tablet or on their electronics or they're, playing outside or whatever it may be. We want their full attention when we're trying to talk to them about something. So in turn, I think it's important that we give them that same.
You're absolutely right. When I want to talk to my kids, if I really need them to hear me, whatever they're doing, I'm like, pause that, turn it over. I need your eyeballs at my eyeballs to make sure that they're listening. And I've noticed that they expect the same thing from me. And if my phone is even in my hands, then they just assume that I'm not listening or that I'm not paying attention. So I do think it's important that we give them our undivided attention.
And even when we're talking about, because Andrea's children are elementary age, and of course mine are young adults, and I've even noticed before, even recently, Allie has said, Mama, put down your phone and listen to me. I'm like, got you, girl. Let me put this down. Because even though she can multitask, and so can I, when it's something that we really need to talk about, we really need to listen with purpose.
Yes.
And so, she's called me out on that before. And so I do want to say that when we are given these tips and things that we're trying to talk to our parents about, we are listening to ourselves too. These are things that we want to work on as well.
100%. And I think too, just being, I don't know if this was for you, the same for you, but I was in the classroom for so many years when I had Asher, by the time I became a school counselor, he was in high school almost, graduating, all that good stuff. So I think a lot of the things that I learned as a school counselor, I was able to put into play from a younger age with Holden. So even just being cognizant of some of the things that we're saying now are not necessarily things that I thought about doing before.
Right.
Yeah. I also think that leads into something else. First we're going to listen, and then I think we need to listen and not react and not jump to conclusions. And that is real hard.
And not always solve the problem.
Right. Sometimes they just want you to listen. They don't want you to fix it. They don't want you to give you advice. They just want you to listen and hear me. And I learned kind of from Ty and one of his baseball coaches, and this was when he was in high school. If you have an issue with playing time, this and that, I want you to wait 24 hours before you come talk to me about it. And so I really tried to practice that with some different things, and it works out so much better for me and my reaction. And then I'm able to think about a lot of different aspects of what I'm wanting to argue about, maybe. And so I really think trying to not react to the kid right there, because when they see your reaction, that becomes their reaction when whatever happens again. So if you blow up over it,
that's a hard one.
They're going to blow up over it. And these are our babies, and we're mama bears and papa bears, and we want to fix it, and we want to go fight for them right then and there. But I do think if we could start practicing that little rule of waiting for, a day before we react, and really think through what happened and the consequences of what happened on both ends, and to kind of get some full stories. I think not jumping to conclusions and not reacting is something that we all need to practice when we're listening to our kiddos about what happened at school, what happened on the baseball field, what happened, at the park, wherever, is listening and not jumping to conclusions.
And something that could help with that, or at least it's helped me, is when my daughter is done speaking, I sit there for a minute and then I say, okay, did you want me to listen, or do you want my opinion? Do you want my thoughts? Do you want me to help you fix it? Or did you just want to talk? Mm-hmm. And she'll usually answer me, and that also helps me know how to proceed. That's sometimes they don't want your thoughts.
So I do that with my kids here, but I don't do that with my kids at home. I need to.
And why don't we do
why
that with
don't
our
we?
kids at home?
Because I had a fifth grader
practicing that.
yesterday, and he came in, and I always ask the bigger kids that can get it. Is like, are you wanting a solution? Like, are you wanting us to work together to come up with a solution, or do you just need a safe space to vent? You know, and he just needed a safe space to vent. And when he was done, he was good, ready to go back, felt better. But I don't do that with my own kids.
Isn't it interesting that I'm trying to work on doing that more at school, and you're trying to work on doing it more at home?
And talking about the waiting 24 hours, Mr. Powell calls them ledgers. And he tells me all the time that I'm a ledger. Like, I'm always on the ledge. Like, that like, I'm the Titanic, like, waiting.
Okay. And hit the iceberg.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm back on the shore, or like on the dock with my fishing rod. Like, really, really, he's like, there's two types of people in life. There's the people in the middle that are waiting, and then there's people that are on the ledge. And it was so funny when he gave me that talk that night. My big kid came in and told me something about school, and I had to text him, and I was like, oh my gosh, my big kid's a ledger too. Like, so
the apple doesn't fall far.
It doesn't. I think about my husband and how he reacts to things, and me and how I react to things. And then I look at our kids, and very much so, Ty is kind of that calm person that thinks about things and then goes through. And then Allie is like me sometimes, where we are on that ledge. Yeah. And so when she does react to things, it's kind of usually built up like, very dramatic. Whereas sometimes that's how I was when I would deal with those things with her.
I feel so stupid when I get like through it, and then I'm like, God, I just overreacted over this, and then our kids see that. Okay, we got
and they
that.
do, and so it truly does. They truly are watching us, and they're taking how we react to things, and then that's how they react to things. So being aware of how we react when they tell us things. And as they get older, you want them to be able to come to you with those serious situations and serious topics, and you not blow up or react right then and there. Be able to just listen and take that in. And if you're able to have that kind of relationship with your kid in those formative teenage years and young adult years, it's amazing to have a kid come and say, Mom, let me tell you what happened. Don't get mad, but I just need you to hear me out. And then they tell you, and you're like, okay, well, we'll work on it and we'll figure it out,
Right. So what we were saying about foundations earlier, this just goes to show that when our littles are telling us these little things that don't seem like big deals, we're laying that foundation of listening and being open so that as they get older and they have big things to tell us, then they want to.
Yeah. And I think as a counselor too, for my school, and it's probably the same with you guys, like a lot of the situations that kiddos come and talk to me about as far as their family is concerned, I feel like a lot of solutions would be just to have a better line of communication.
Yes, absolutely.
Because like I wear my counselor hat, but I also try to put on that parent hat too when they come in here, and when they're talking about that, and I just think, God, have you really spoken to them about that? Like and they're like, no, I don't know how, or no, I don't want to, or I don't want them to be mad, and they're not going to get mad, but trying to tell that to a little, sometimes it's hard for them to get that. So I do think that communication as far as building a relationship is probably like numero uno.
Another aspect of communication though too is knowing when we make a mistake as a parent with our kids, is showing them and modeling to them on how to apologize and when to apologize. And I know I've had to do that multiple times with my kids.
Sorry, I lost it today.
Sorry that I blew up on you in the Walmart.
But I've only been asking you. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, but, we do make mistakes. Adults make mistakes.
Right,
kids make mistakes.
And the right way to apologize instead of like what I just, I'm sorry I lost it on you today, but I have been asking you for the past week to do. Yeah, leave that part out.
Yes. And that just teaches them and models to them, like, when we do own up to our mistakes, what should we do?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just another little side topic is we don't ever want to force our kids to apologize. And that's something that I've been trying to really, take into account with school kids too. Instead of saying, oh, I think you need to apologize for your behavior, I try to say, so what should we do when we do something wrong to somebody? What are some things we can do for them? And a lot of times the kids know because they've seen us apologize before.
Right.
So not forcing that apology, but yet encouraging it for them to have that idea to apologize. And so I really think that just, apologizing for your mistakes that you've made and owning up to those mistakes really will help with those communication tips, not only between you and your child later on in life, but for your child and their relationships outside of family.
Right. Right. Well, when we apologize, it definitely is repairing hurt feelings and repairing the relationship, but also, like you said, it teaches them how to do that amongst their friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've talked about communicating tips. Let's talk about spending time with our kiddos and how we go about doing that. And we all think, oh, I did this with them, I did that with them, we've done this and this and this. And I think when we start to think about spending time with our children, I think we need to really think about taking an interest in what they enjoy. Mm-hmm. They're learning lots of things at school, lots of games, lots of new activities. And I think instead of saying, hey, we're going to do this, hey, do you have some good ideas for us to do something this weekend? What's something your friends have talked about? Or what's a new game you've learned at school? I think trying to figure out things that interest them. One memory I have that, I always go back to a lot of times. Ty is a young adult and about to get married. But I remember when Allie was a baby and Ty had just gotten like the first Xbox kind of thing. And I know it's funny, but we would sit there while Allie was napping, and he was so involved in the little SpongeBob game, and we were trying to get the golden spatulas. And we would sit there with popcorn and drink in the floor, and we were trying to play together. So playing those things that interest them.
Yeah.
I mean, if your kid plays Call of Duty, teach me how to play Call of Duty.
Yes.
So that you can be involved in their world. And maybe that'll help you understand each other a little bit better, too.
Yeah. I think in being okay that their interests changes.
Yes.
One of the and this is probably like a very touchy topic for people who are super involved in sports and things like that, especially in our little, community. Like sports is key. And I grew up that way. And so Asher, like in 2 separate seasons of his life, like we started baseball really early on, like T-ball, instructional ball, like all the way up to 3rd grade, so from 3 years old to 9 years old, it was baseball. And I thought, that's what we're going to do. Well, then in 3rd grade, he decides he doesn't want to do baseball anymore. And like my heart's breaking because we've been doing baseball since we're 3. And I feel like we're going to be the next Derek Jeter. We're not, but that's how I feel because he's my baby. And he decides he's going to do soccer. Okay, well, as long as you're doing something, I'm good with that. So we start soccer in 3rd grade and we really love it. And we start doing travel soccer and we really love it. We do club ball, not just rec ball. And we're every weekend and every day, all the way up to 9th grade, from 3rd grade to 9th grade. And we win the state championship and we're so excited. And he's like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Wow. And I'm like, I thought we were going to play soccer at school. And, because soccer's a thing at school, I'm like, I thought that's what we were going to do. No, I think I'm done. I need a break. So I'm like, okay, we'll take a little break, a little one, just a tiny one, because you have been doing it year round. And he discovered, but it hurt. I did not want to let it happen, but, we did. But in that little break, he discovered his love for music. So now we've like taught ourselves to play guitar. And, you know, if I would have really pushed like I wanted to do, because I am that type of mom, it's not always a positive thing. But if I would have pushed, then we definitely would have missed out on that opportunity for him to foster something that he has turned into a huge passion of, you know, that I'm super proud of for. But just being okay with those interests changing.
Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
It's hard, though.
It is hard, especially when you devote a lot of time and energy and money to those interests, and then all of a sudden they change. But if we think back to our lives and growing up, we were probably the same way.
Yeah.
It just wasn't on as big level as it is now, because you know, sports and outside of school is so different than it was when we were growing up back in the day.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, you played a sport for a season and you went on to another sport or another activity, and you didn't look at it again until the season came around again.
Yeah.
So
and now
I
it's
think
like,
just keeping up with their interest and allowing them to have multiple interests as best you can. But another thing about spending time together, if you have multiple children, is trying to have some one-on-one time with each kid. You know, maybe having some
yeah. How do
mommy
you do
dates.
that?
Yes,
Like, 'cause
how do
your
you do
kids
those?
are really
Yes,
close
they are
together.
really close together.
My kids are so close together, and they, you know, the younger one wants to do all the same things as the older one, and of course that drives the older one crazy. And even though they have the same interests and the same friends, they don't have the same strengths and weaknesses. So at our house, we do try to spend one-on-one time together, and Josh and I try to tag team it. So if I'm doing something with one, like we're going shopping for new earrings, then Josh is going to take the other one to do something that she likes to do. And then we'll basically just trade off, and me and Hannah will jump on the trampoline, and Josh and Holly will paint fingernails or something like that. You know, we try to do something with the other one at the same time so that nobody feels like they're getting left out, and they're both getting time with each of us.
Well, because
separately.
they're that age, they still probably don't understand, well, y'all did this last night, so we're doing this today. So
Right.
it probably, with those kids at that age, needs to be done at the same time and tag team kind of thing. And I think that's a great idea.
Right.
And when we talk about spending one-on-one time with your kid, it doesn't mean you have to go buy them something. It could be simply painting toenails or fingernails or something like that, and something easy to where y'all can just have casual conversation. It allows them to talk while they play, talk while they do, and it encourages that open line of communication with your kids while you're spending time together.
yeah.
Right. Spending time together doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a huge deal. And it shouldn't be all the time, because that's not
has
real
that?
life.
Yes.
You don't have the
Right.
time, or maybe you don't have the finances. And so at the Lila's house, we've developed some different ways to spend time together as a family. And we love board games, and we play board games and card games a lot on the weekends because the kids are very competitive. And just a little plug, there is a book for families called the Family Adventure Challenge.
Oh.
And so there are all these challenges, and some are free and some cost a little money or a lot of money, but you can't see the challenge. It just has a title, and then it's like a scratch off, and you have to use a coin or something to scratch off the paragraph that tells you what your challenge is. And then you do it together as a family, and you can take pictures and you can write about it. So then you have this little scrapbook.
Oh, that's cute.
And it's
That's so
so
neat.
cute. But we have done the silliest things. We have done like fruit and vegetable bobbing, which was hilarious. And I won. Just in case you wanted to know, I won. And we've made like silly videos, and we've busted pinatas like ninjas. Just be silly and think creatively. That's what we do, and I think that's what our kids have enjoyed the most.
That's another thing, is don't be afraid
To be goofy.
to be goofy and have fun and be silly. And I know that, you know, we are talking to a lot of different age groups, and I know TikTok is one of those things that can be very bad, but it can also be very good. Make funny TikTok videos with your kiddos. And
Well, I think, and if you're doing that with them, then you're also going to know what's on
what's
TikTok, and you can be able to help. Help monitor that.
Yes.
And then going back to the communication thing, this also goes with the spending time together, is just being present.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
put the phone down. Don't
Put it down.
Yeah.
Put it down. And that's hard, y'all. Especially now. Everybody's got cell phones. It's so hard. And I'm just as bad at it as any other parent, probably. Like, because you just become dependent on it. And
And everything's on it.
It
like
is.
I read, I love to read. That's probably my favorite hobby in the whole wide world. But my Kindle is on my phone, so I even read my books on my phone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we've talked about communicating. We've talked about spending time together. And one other aspect of building relationships with your child is family habits. And I think one important part of family habits is when it's possible, allow your kiddo to be involved in decision making. Whether it's the next vacation, whether it's what's for supper tonight, give them a chance to give input. And I think that's real important. When they have a say, they're more
take
apt
ownership
to
too,
enjoy and want to participate. And I'm kind of thinking of those tweens and middle school age kiddos that, we're starting to see our 4th and 5th graders kind of go towards.
Yes.
And, it's not cool to hang out with mom and dad. So if they can have an opinion or an idea or a thought that can go into the pot that we're going to do, I think that would kind of help in building those relationships a little bit.
Do you do the family meetings? That's like one of the things that people suggest.
We don't do
like you would have a family meeting out of anybody at the table.
We don't. And when you say that, I picture like Danny Tanner and his daughters. So no, we don't do that. But we eat dinner together as a family most nights because my kids are still young. We don't have that sport or that thing that we're super involved in. And so at the dinner table, we do a wave and a wipeout some nights where we go around and we share the best thing about our day and the worst thing about our day.
Oh, I love that.
So
we do high-low. So like
same thing. Yeah. So that's
we just
probably
talk
the
about
closest.
food at the dinner table. Well, we have when Allie's home some now, and so when her and her boyfriend are over, we eat at the table.
Right.
We don't have our phones out. We try to not have our phones out. And we talk about
that's a big rule.
cooking and what we're going to fix and where we're going to go. And it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we definitely don't do the family meeting because I feel like it's a dictatorship and I'm a dictator.
But that is a good idea for somebody that's looking for a way to start building those habits.
Yes.
Is to have
I guess you could consider it a family meeting. Like if you're having dinner every night together, it doesn't have to be like, all right, meeting in order, call it. Yeah. It doesn't have to be like that because we barely have time to get dinner in together, so like adding one more thing on top of that, would just, but, and then one of the big things too that, when I was researching for this topic and looking over was talking about the family values and the traditions and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I might not do the family meeting and all that good stuff, but my family, there's my extended family, there's probably 17 of us, I think now, and we're about to have boy-girl twins. I'm super excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Not me, but my nephew and his wife. Woo-hoo, can't wait. Anyway, so excited about that. But like the traditions that we do have as a family, my mom called the other day. We do Sunday dinner a lot. And she was wanting to do Sunday dinner for one of my brother's birthdays. And so she was like, hey, can y'all come? And I was like, no, we're going to be, we're not going to be available on that day. Me and Moose and Holden aren't. And Asher, I had her on speakerphone. And Asher's like, but I can come,
Sweet.
So even if like all of us aren't available, like my nieces and my nephews, they just want to be together. We're going on summer vacation together. Those things. We do have a couple of traditions just like in our immediate family, but the majority of my traditions are with my mom and my dad and my brothers and their families. And you don't realize how important that is until a couple years ago when COVID hit. We had summer vacation planned and
didn't get to go.
My oldest came down with COVID, and that was when it first
fairly
started,
new,
and
yeah.
like you couldn't get out of quarantine until it was a whole hot mess. But anyway, we missed our family vacation, and my kids were devastated. And it wasn't that they missed vacation, because we went on a vacation once we got out of quarantine, but it was because they weren't with their
That family.
cousins and that family aspect. So they really look forward to that. So I think setting those traditions, whether it be with your big extended family or just within your small in-house family, is super important.
And since we're talking about, communicating with our kids and building those lines of communication, ask your kids what they think the family traditions are, because the things that my girls consider to be a tradition would never have occurred to me, because I do think in terms of like Christmas Eve or family vacation, and they don't. They think about other things that maybe we did one time, but they loved it and they want that to be a tradition. So then we have to look for ways to incorporate it. And
Absolutely.
Oh, that's sweet.
never know.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
well, you just never know what is important to them.
them
I
until
mean,
it- yeah.
everybody places value on different things. So.
That's a good point. Do y'all have anything else to share?
No.
I don't. I think this was a great conversation.
Yeah.
It was. This was
Well-
a learning opportunity for me.
Oh, absolutely.
Also.
Well, our hope today is that you were able to get some great tips and strategies to begin maybe implementing with your children in building a strong foundation and a strong relationship with them. And what this looks like will vary from family to family, absolutely, just like ours varies from family to family
Yes.
between the three of us. But hopefully these strategies will help you and your children realize how much they're loved and how much they're cared for. And if anything out of this, just communication. Start there with those simple, easy little conversations with your kids, and then build on it from that. And so just like with any other time we do coffee with the counselors, we do have handouts that we send home to our kiddos on Fridays. And so look for that next week.
Yes.
And we surely enjoyed sharing this with you guys today.
It's always fun to get together with y'all.
It is.
I agree.
Oh, and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's
Happy Valentine's Day.
and happy school counselor
And
week.
happy School Counselor Week to anybody out there that is a school counselor. We appreciate what you do with the students that you work with daily.
Thank you for listening to our Coffee with the Counselors podcast, produced by Anderson School District 3. If you have questions for our counselors or suggestions for future topics, visit acsd3.org to contact our counselors directly.